What if everything you were taught about getting ahead in life is wrong? You were told to work hard, be honest, be nice to everyone, and one day things will work out. But look around. That's not what you see. You see people who lie and still win. You see people who manipulate and still get promoted. You see people who read others in seconds while you're still trying to figure out who you can trust. Here's the truth nobody tells you. Every single day, invisible forces are shaping your choices, shaping what you believe, shaping what you fear, shaping who you become. And the scariest part, you don't even feel it happening. 500 years ago, a man named Niccolo Machiavelli figured this out before anyone else dared to say it out loud. He didn't care about being liked. He cared about being right. He studied power, manipulation, and human nature with brutal honesty. And what he found still applies today, word for word. In the next few minutes, I'm going to give you 7 of his darkest, most powerful psychological rules. Rules that can protect your mind. Rules that make you almost impossible to manipulate. Rules that successful people already use, whether they admit it or not. Stay until the end. Because rule number 7 is the one most people only learn after they've already lost something they can't get back. Machiavelli never tried to make people feel good. He wasn't writing comfort quotes. He was studying one simple question: why do humans, generation after generation, keep making the exact same mistakes? And here's what he found. People don't really change. Strip away the phones, the clothes, the modern world, and you'll find the same fears, the same desires, the same weaknesses that existed centuries ago. Once you understand these patterns, people stop confusing you. Life stops surprising you. Even your own past mistakes finally start making sense. This isn't about becoming manipulative. This isn't about hurting people. This is about recognizing the forces that try to control you before they get the chance. Because somebody, somewhere, is always trying to read you, predict you, influence you. The only question is, will you see it coming, or will you find out when it's already too late? Before we move forward, I want you to drop this affirmation in the comments. I think before I react. Let's go. Rule 1. Never confuse words with reality. Let's start with something most people get wrong their entire lives. They listen to what someone says, and they believe it, not because they're foolish, but because that's how most of us were raised. We were taught that words carry weight, that a promise means something, that if someone says, "I've got your back," they actually do. That idea sounds nice, but it falls apart the moment you really examine it. Words are the cheapest thing a human being can produce. Anyone can say, "I'll pay you back." Anyone can say, "I love you." Anyone can say, "This time will be different." Saying something costs nothing. It takes 0 effort, 0 sacrifice, and 0 proof. Yet most people treat sentences like binding contracts, handing out trust the second the right words leave someone's mouth. Think about how many times someone has told you exactly what you wanted to hear, right before they let you down. A neighbor who said they'd help you move, then disappeared when the day actually came. A friend who swore they'd always be there, then vanished the moment things got hard. A family member who talked endlessly about loyalty, then gave you 1,000 reasons to doubt it later on. None of these people were necessarily lying the moment the words left their mouth. They simply understood something you hadn't learned yet. Words are free, but actions cost something real. And people only pay what they're genuinely willing to pay. So here's the shift worth making. Stop listening to what people say they will do. Start watching what people actually do, especially when there's nothing in it for them and no one is paying attention. That's where the real person shows up. Anyone can be kind when people are watching. Anyone can act generous in front of a crowd. Anyone can be warm and pleasant for a single afternoon. The real test of character happens in the quiet moments. How someone treats a stranger who can't do anything for them. How someone behaves when they think no one will find out. How someone responds the third or fourth time you ask for the same thing, not just the first. This doesn't mean you walk through life cynical about everyone you meet. It means you stop handing out trust like it's free. Trust should be earned through a pattern, not granted through a single sentence. One kind word doesn't make someone kind. One broken promise doesn't make someone awful. But a pattern, repeated over weeks and months, tells you almost everything you need to know about a person's real character underneath the surface. Here's something else worth paying attention to. The people who talk the most about their own honesty are often the ones worth watching the closest. Genuinely trustworthy people rarely feel the need to announce it. They just show it, again and again, without asking for credit or recognition. It's usually the person constantly repeating, "Trust me," or "I'm a loyal person," who is working hardest to convince you of something their actions haven't actually proven yet. There's also a quieter pattern worth noticing here. Pay attention to how someone talks about people who aren't in the room. If they constantly criticize, mock, or betray confidences about others when those people aren't present, ask yourself an honest question. What do they say about you the moment you leave the room too? Behavior toward others is one of the clearest previews of how you'll eventually be treated yourself. Once you start judging people by their patterns instead of their promises, your whole world becomes noticeably clearer. You stop getting blindsided by people who seemed so nice. You stop being shocked when someone out of nowhere betrays you because you start noticing the small inconsistencies long before the big betrayal ever happens. The warning signs were always there. You simply weren't trained to look for them until now. This single shift, judging actions instead of words, will save you from more heartbreak, more wasted time, and more bad decisions than almost any other lesson in this video. Because the moment you stop being moved by promises alone, you become someone who's incredibly difficult to manipulate with empty talk. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I trust actions, not promises. Rule 2. Discover what drives every decision. Here's something that will change the way you see every single person in your life. Nobody does anything without a reason, even when that reason stays hidden, sometimes even from themselves. Every action a person takes connects to something they're either chasing or protecting. Maybe they're chasing approval, maybe they're chasing comfort, attention, or a sense of belonging. Or maybe they're protecting their pride, their image, their sense of control, or a deep fear of being seen as weak. Once you understand this, human behavior stops feeling random. It starts looking like a pattern you can actually read. Think about the relative who always needs to one-up everyone at a family gathering. On the surface, it looks like confidence, but underneath, it's often the opposite. It's a person terrified of being overlooked, so they perform certainty to hide insecurity they'd never admit to having. Once you see that, their behavior stops being annoying and starts being predictable. You stop reacting emotionally to it because you finally understand what's actually driving it. Or think about the friend who always seems to need a crisis. They thrive on drama, constantly pulling people into their problems. Most people simply label this person exhausting and leave it there. But look closer, and you'll usually find someone who learned, somewhere along the way, that chaos earns attention, calm behavior never did. Their drama isn't random at all. It's a strategy. even if they've never consciously admitted that to themselves. This is the part most people miss completely. Most human motivation isn't conscious. People rarely sit down and think, I'm going to manipulate this situation to protect my ego. Instead, their behavior flows automatically from deep, often invisible needs built over years. Your job isn't to judge the behavior on the surface. Your job is to ask a sharper question. What is this person actually protecting or actually chasing right now? Once you start asking that question regularly, entire relationships finally make sense. The friend who never gives you credit for anything isn't necessarily cruel. They might be terrified that someone else will outshine them in the group. The relative who constantly criticizes your choices might not dislike you at all. They might feel threatened by a life that looks different from the one they settled into. The stranger who explodes over something small in a parking lot isn't really angry about the parking lot. They're carrying something heavier that the moment just happened to trigger. This rule isn't about excusing bad behavior. People remain responsible for their actions, no matter what's driving them underneath. But understanding the motivation behind behavior gives you something incredibly valuable: control over your own reaction. When you understand why someone is acting a certain way, you stop taking it personally. You stop being surprised. And most importantly, you stop wasting energy being confused by people who are, in reality, completely predictable once you know what to look for. This works just as well on yourself. The next time you catch yourself reacting strongly to something small, pause and ask the same question inward. What am I actually protecting right now? What am I actually chasing? Often you'll find the real trigger isn't the situation in front of you at all. It's something older, something the current moment just happened to brush up against. The next time someone's behavior frustrates or confuses you, don't ask, why are they doing this to me? Ask instead, what are they protecting and what are they chasing? The answer is almost always there, hiding in plain sight, waiting for you to finally notice it. Now I want you to drop this affirmation in the comments. I see the reason behind the behavior. Rule 3. Silence reveals more than questions. Most people are uncomfortable with silence. The second a conversation pauses for more than a few seconds, they rush to fill it. They explain themselves. They add extra details nobody asked for. They start talking just to escape that uncomfortable empty space hanging in the air. That fear of silence happens to be one of the most exploitable habits a person can have. The person who talks the least in a conversation often learns the most. While everyone else is busy filling silence with words, the quiet observer is gathering information, watching reactions, noticing what people choose to say when nobody is pressuring them, and especially noticing what slips out when someone is simply trying to escape the discomfort of an unanswered pause. Think about haggling over a price at a market. Most people, when they name a number, immediately start justifying it before the other person even responds. They talk themselves into a weaker position simply because they couldn't tolerate a few seconds of silence after speaking. A skilled negotiator does the opposite. They state their offer, then say nothing at all. They let the silence sit there, uncomfortable and heavy, until the other person breaks first, often revealing exactly how much room they actually have to compromise. This same principle works in everyday conversations too. If you ask someone a question and they give you a short, surface-level answer, resist the urge to immediately fire off a follow-up question. Just wait. Hold the silence a few extra seconds longer than feels natural. Watch what happens next. Most people cannot stand that gap. They'll keep talking, adding more context, more honesty, more truth than they originally planned to share, simply because the silence made them uncomfortable enough to fill it themselves. This isn't about being cold or withholding conversation from people you genuinely care about. It's about understanding that real information flows toward patience, not toward pressure. The more you push someone with rapid questions, the more guarded and rehearsed their answers become. But the more space you give someone, the more naturally they reveal who they actually are. There's another layer to this rule worth noting. Silence doesn't only reveal other people, it protects you too. Every time you resist the urge to instantly respond, defend yourself, or explain your reasoning, you give yourself time to actually think instead of just react. Most people say things in the heat of a moment that they regret later, simply because they felt pressure to fill silence with an immediate reply. The person who can sit comfortably inside a pause without panic almost always comes across as more confident, more composed, and more in control of the conversation, even while saying far less than everyone else in the room. This applies in written conversation too, not just face-to-face. Notice how often you reply to a text the instant it arrives, even when you have nothing useful to say yet. A short pause before replying, even by a few minutes, often produces a calmer, more thoughtful response than the instant reaction would have. Speed isn't always strength. Sometimes it's just anxiety dressed up as efficiency. Try this the next time you're in a tense or uncertain conversation. Say less than you initially want to. Let pauses last a little longer than feels comfortable. Watch how much more the other person reveals, simply because you gave them the room to do it. Silence isn't empty. It's one of the most powerful tools you'll ever have, and almost nobody uses it on purpose. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I listen more than I speak. Rule 4. Make yourself difficult to read. Every time you react instantly and predictably, you hand someone a map of exactly how to control you. If people know criticism makes you defensive, they'll use criticism to push your buttons. If they know flattery makes you agreeable, they'll use flattery to get what they want. The moment your emotional responses become predictable, you become easy to influence, whether the people around you realize they're doing it or not. The most influential people throughout history weren't necessarily the loudest or the most aggressive in the room. They were often the ones who stayed difficult to read, people who didn't broadcast every thought, every irritation, or every flash of excitement the second it happened, not because they were hiding something sinister, but because they understood a simple truth. Privacy is power. Once people know exactly how you'll react, they stop being careful around you and they start using you instead. This doesn't mean becoming fake or emotionless. It means slowing down before you respond. When something upsets you, instead of reacting in the moment, pause. Ask yourself if this reaction needs to be shown right now, or if it's better revealed later, calmly, on your own terms. The version of you that responds 5 minutes later, with a clear head, is almost always wiser than the version that reacts in the first 5 seconds. Think about people you consider genuinely composed, hard to rattle no matter what's happening around them. Notice how rarely they show their full hand. They don't announce every plan before it's ready. They don't explain every decision before it's already done. They let outcomes speak first, with explanations following only if needed afterward. This creates a quiet sense of uncertainty around them. People can't fully predict their next move, so people can't easily manipulate their next move either. There's a practical side to this as well. The less predictable you are, the more carefully people have to think before approaching you with manipulation. Someone who knows pushing you leads to anger will avoid pushing the wrong button. Someone who knows pressure makes you fold will keep applying pressure. But someone who genuinely can't predict your response has to be far more careful, because they don't actually know what they're dealing with. This rule also protects your peace day to day. When you stop reacting instantly to every comment, every insult, or every small provocation, you stop handing other people control over your emotional state. Someone trying to upset you only succeeds if your face, your voice, or your decisions reveal that it worked. The moment you withhold that reaction, even briefly, you take the power right back into your own hands. Notice too how this shows up in body language, not just words. Crossed arms, a sharp exhale, eyes rolling, all of these tiny signals broadcast exactly what's going on inside you before you've even decided what to say. Mastering this rule means becoming aware of those signals and choosing consciously what gets shown and what stays private until you decide otherwise. Being hard to read isn't about deception, it's about discipline. It's choosing when to reveal your thoughts instead of letting every emotion spill out the second it appears. The calmest person in the room is almost always the hardest person to manipulate, simply because nobody can predict what they're thinking, what they're planning, or how they'll respond next. I want you to drop this affirmation in the comments. My calm is my power. Rule 5. Separate feelings from facts. Strong emotions lie to you. Anger convinces you that a small problem is a massive threat. Fear convinces you that danger is everywhere, even when nothing has actually changed. Excitement convinces you to ignore obvious risks because the moment feels too good to question. If you make decisions while these emotions are running the show, you will almost always make the wrong call. Emotion and clear judgment rarely operate at full strength at the same time. When emotion rises, clear thinking drops fast. This is why people send messages they regret the second they hit send. This is why people make big purchases in a moment of frustration, then regret it the very next morning. This is why people agree to deals out of pure excitement, only to realize later they never actually read the terms carefully. Here's a simple but powerful habit to build. Before any major decision, separate two columns in your mind. One column holds what you feel. The other column holds what you actually know. The verified facts, not assumptions, not fears, not the stories you've quietly built in your own head. Most people skip this step entirely. They feel something strongly and treat that feeling as proof, when in reality, a feeling is just a feeling. It tells you about your internal state, not necessarily about the actual external situation. Think about a moment when you felt completely certain someone was upset with you, ignoring your texts, being distant, acting a little strange. Your mind built an entire story around it. Maybe they're mad at you. Maybe they're talking badly about you somewhere. Maybe the friendship is quietly ending. Then, a day later, you found out they were just dealing with something personal that had nothing to do with you at all. The emotion felt exactly like fact in the moment. It wasn't. This pattern shows up everywhere, in relationships, in daily decisions, in arguments, in opportunities you say yes or no to without thinking it through. The emotional version of events is rarely the accurate version. It's the exaggerated version, shaped by fear, insecurity, or excitement, not by truth. Here's how you apply this practically. When you feel a strong emotional pull toward a decision, whether it's anger pushing you to confront someone, fear pushing you to avoid something, or excitement pushing you to say yes immediately, pause before acting. Give yourself even a short window of time. Ask yourself, if I removed the emotion completely, what do the actual facts say? Often, you'll find the facts tell a much calmer, much less dramatic story than the emotion did. A useful trick here is to imagine explaining the situation to a stranger who has no emotional stake in it at all. Strip away the dramatic language, the assumptions, the worst-case scenarios. Just state what actually happened, plainly. You'll often notice the story shrinks considerably once it's stripped down to bare facts. This doesn't mean suppressing your emotions or pretending they don't matter. Emotions carry valuable information. They tell you what you care about, what you fear, and what you value most. But they make terrible decision makers when left unchecked. The clearest thinkers aren't people who feel nothing. They're people who feel everything fully, then pause long enough to separate the feeling from the fact before acting on either one. Drop this affirmation in the comments. Facts guide me, not feelings. Rule 6. Protect what enters your mind. Your mind isn't a fixed thing. It's shaped, slowly and quietly, by everything you repeatedly expose it to, the conversations you have, the content you consume, the opinions you absorb without question, the negativity you sit inside for hours without realizing how heavy it's becoming. None of these things change you overnight, but repeated over weeks, months, and years, they completely reshape how you think, what you believe, and how you see the world around you. Whoever controls the information entering someone's mind eventually controls a piece of that person's beliefs. This idea matters more today than ever, because the information shaping your thinking isn't limited to the people physically around you anymore. It's coming from every screen, every app, every algorithm built specifically to hold your attention as long as possible, regardless of whether what it's feeding you actually benefits you in any way. Think about what happens when you spend an hour scrolling through people complaining, arguing, or spreading fear online. You don't consciously decide to feel more anxious or more cynical afterward. It just happens. Your mind absorbed the tone of everything it consumed, and that tone quietly becomes part of how you see your own life, even though none of it was ever actually about your life to begin with. The same is true for the people you spend the most time around. If you're constantly surrounded by people who complain about everything, who see problems instead of solutions, who discourage ambition instead of supporting it, you will slowly start thinking that way too, even if you started out completely different from them. Human beings naturally absorb the patterns of whoever and whatever surrounds them most often. This isn't weakness. It's simply how the mind works. This is exactly why protecting your attention isn't some minor lifestyle choice. It's one of the most important decisions you'll ever make, repeated every single day without exception. What you choose to watch, read, listen to, and discuss is quietly building the person you're becoming, whether or not you're paying attention to that process happening underneath. Start asking sharper questions about what you let into your mind. Does this conversation help me think more clearly, or does it just stir up emotion without offering anything useful? Does this content challenge me to grow, or does it just keep me scrolling without ever adding real value to my life? Does spending time with this person leave me feeling sharper and steadier, or does it leave me anxious and drained for no clear reason? It also helps to treat your morning and night the way you'd treat a doorway. What you let through first thing in the morning sets the tone for everything that follows. What you let through right before sleep gets carried with you into rest, often shaping the quality of your sleep itself. Guarding those two windows alone can change how an entire day feels. You don't need to cut off the entire world or become isolated to protect your mind. You simply need to become intentional, choosing what deserves your attention instead of letting anything and everything claim it by default. Over time, this single habit, guarding what enters your mind, will do more to shape your future than almost any other decision you make, because everything you become starts with what you allowed in first. Rule 7. Become comfortable standing alone. This is the lesson most people learn far too late in life, usually after years of decisions made to please others, instead of decisions made from genuine conviction. Most bad choices in life don't come from a lack of intelligence. They come from a fear of standing apart from the group. People stay quiet in situations they dislike because everyone around them stayed quiet too. People avoid speaking up in group settings because disagreeing feels riskier than staying silent. People follow paths that were never truly theirs, simply because choosing differently might mean facing judgment, criticism, or distance from people whose approval they were taught to value above their own judgment. The crowd is rarely a reliable measure of truth, and popularity has never been solid proof of being right. Throughout history, the people who actually changed things weren't the ones waiting around for permission or applause. They were the ones willing to trust their own observations, even when those observations put them at odds with everyone standing around them. Standing alone doesn't mean being reckless or dismissing other people's input entirely. It means being willing to make a decision based on evidence and conviction, even when that decision isn't popular. It means being able to say, "I see this differently," without immediately backing down the second someone disagrees. Most people fold the moment they sense disapproval. The ones who don't fold are usually the ones who end up furthest ahead, because their decisions were built on what was actually true, not on what kept everyone comfortable around them. Here's something worth sitting with for a moment. Every time you abandon your own judgment just to avoid discomfort, you quietly teach yourself that your judgment matters less than everyone else's approval. Do that enough times, and you slowly lose touch with your own instincts altogether. You stop trusting yourself because you've spent years prioritizing other people's opinions over your own observations of reality. The encouraging part is that this pattern can absolutely be reversed. It starts small, disagreeing respectfully when you genuinely see something differently, making a decision because it's right for you, not because it's expected of you by people around you, sitting with the discomfort of someone's disapproval instead of rushing to immediately fix it or explain yourself out of it. Notice too that the people who criticize you hardest for standing apart are often the ones most uncomfortable with their own unmade decisions. Their disapproval frequently says more about what they're avoiding in their own life than it ever says about the choice you've made. Keep that in mind the next time someone's judgment feels heavier than it should. Over time, something shifts. The fear of standing alone starts fading. You realize most disapproval is temporary, while the regret of betraying your own judgment tends to last far longer. You stop needing constant agreement to feel confident in a choice, because your confidence starts coming from evidence and conviction instead of crowd approval. In many ways, this final lesson ties every earlier one together. You can't judge actions over words, understand hidden motivations, stay patient through silence, remain hard to read, separate emotion from fact, and protect your mind while constantly bending to keep everyone around you comfortable. Genuine independent thinking is the thread that holds the rest of it in place. So there you have it, 7 psychological lessons worth carrying with you, lessons that feel more relevant today than ever. In a world full of noise, distraction, and constant attempts to shape the way you think without your permission. Judge people by what they actually do, not by what they promise. Look for the hidden motivation underneath every behavior you encounter. Use silence to learn more than rapid questions ever could. Stay calm enough that nobody can map out your next move in advance. Separate what you feel in the moment from what you actually know to be true. Protect your mind from everything quietly shaping it without your consent. And finally, learn to stand firm when your own judgment tells you something the crowd around you refuses to accept. None of these lessons are about becoming manipulative or cold toward the people in your life. They're about something far more valuable: clarity. The ability to see situations exactly as they are, instead of how emotion, pressure, or someone else's agenda wants you to see them. Apply even a few of these ideas consistently, and you'll notice something powerful happening over time. People stop being confusing. Situations stop catching you off guard. And most importantly, you become someone who is far harder to fool, far harder to pressure, and far harder to control by anyone ever again. Real strength was never about dominating the people around you. It was always about mastering yourself first, your reactions, your attention, your judgment, and your independence. The moment you gain real control over those things, you stop needing control over anyone else, because you've already won the only battle that ever truly mattered in the first place. Think back over these 7 rules for a moment. Notice how none of them ask you to become someone you're not. They simply ask you to pay closer attention, to slow down before reacting, and to trust the evidence in front of you more than the noise around you. That shift alone, paying closer attention, separates people who get repeatedly taken advantage of from people who move through life with a quiet, steady confidence. Nothing seems to shake. If this video gave you even one idea worth carrying forward, hit that like button. It genuinely helps this channel keep growing and reach more people who need to hear this. Share this video with someone who needs to hear these lessons just as much as you needed to hear them today. And if you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe, because more videos built to help you think clearer, stand firmer, and become harder to manipulate are coming soon. Drop this final affirmation in the comments: I am in control of my own mind.